You've probably been told that AI is going to transform your business. Maybe you've already bought something, an AI tool, a subscription. Maybe you've run a pilot. And maybe you're still impatiently waiting to see if it's actually going to deliver. But you're not alone, because according to Gartner, at least 50% of generative AI projects get abandoned after the proof of concept. And research from MIT suggests that 95% of corporate AI projects fail to deliver any P&L impact. So before you go any further, the real question isn't what AI can do, it's whether your business is in a position to get anything out of it. I'm Mike Kiley. I'm a chartered accountant and a consultant with 30 years of experience of working in professional services, including 14 years at WPP. I spent the last several years helping professional services firms implement systems and more recently automate workflows. The results have been strong, but what I've learned from the firms that I get the most out of AI is not necessarily that they're the ones that are the most sophisticated, but they are the ones that are the most prepared. About 40% of professional services firms have integrated AI at the organizational level, which sounds impressive until you see that only 18% of them track the ROI from those tools. And you can't manage what you can't measure. And most businesses aren't even measuring it. What you see on the ground is a lot of individual usage. People using ChatGPT to draft emails, Copilot to summarize meetings. And that's not nothing, but it's not the same as AI changing your margin. And the gap between my team uses AI and AI has moved our P&L is where most firms are stuck. Gartner is explicit about why. Poor data quality, no business value defined, weak controls, and escalating costs that weren't planned for. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's the same pattern as failed ERP implementations. And just like ERP, the firms getting real results aren't better funded, they're just better prepared. And readiness isn't about having the right software, it's about having the right foundations. And there are 4 things I look at. The first is data. AI needs clean, accessible data. If your project data is spread across spreadsheets, your client records have duplicates, and your ERP hasn't been maintained, AI doesn't fix that at all. It just amplifies it. You speed up a broken process and get broken outputs faster. Ask yourself, if someone outside your business needed to understand your financials, your projects, and your client relationships from your systems alone, in other words, no tribal knowledge, not ask the partner, could they do it? If the answer is no, then your data is not ready. The second is processes. AI agents need to follow a process. If your process lives inside somebody's head, the AI can't follow it. You don't need war and peace, but you do need enough that a new person can execute without having to ask 3 or 4 people. And if you can't write it down, you can't automate it. In my experience, this is where most mid-sized firms are the weakest. Not because people don't know what to do, but because no one's written it down. In fact, we recently worked at a firm when one person managed all of the firm's back office processes and didn't have anything written down. So one of the first things we did was to document all their processes, not just for AI purposes, but because having all that information in somebody's head is a huge risk to the business. The third one is financial visibility. To scale AI, you need to track its impact. That means baseline metrics, your utilization rate, your write-off rate, your average collection period, your revenue leakage. Firms that can't track these at the start can't prove the value at the end. And projects that can't prove value are the ones that get cut. And last but not least is people and incentives. Research consistently shows that 70% of AI implementation challenges come down to people and culture. Not the technology, not the data, but people. And there are 2 reasons for this in professional services. Firstly, your team may genuinely be worried about what AI means for their roles. And who can blame them, given the prophecies in the media about the impact of AI on the job market? And if you don't address that directly, you'll get passive resistance. People will use the tool when supervised, but ignore it when they're not. Hey, if you're not sure whether your business is ready to implement AI, we've put together a free quiz that tells you in about 5 minutes. It scores you across the areas that actually matter and gives you a clear read on where you stand. The link's in the description. The second, and this applies particularly to partner-led firms, is your incentive structure may be working against you. If you bill by the hour AI creates a structural problem you need to think through before you deploy it. Because AI makes your team more efficient. The work that took 4 hours now takes 2. But if you're billing by hours, that efficiency doesn't become a margin, it becomes lost revenue, unless you change how you price. Research in the legal and accounting sectors estimates that AI frees up about 240 hours per professional per year. That's 6 weeks of productive capacity per person. And at a billing rate of around $300 an hour, that's $72,000 per person in potentially lost billings if your pricing model hasn't changed. For a 20-person firm, you're looking at 1.4 million of revenue gap created by the very efficiency you're trying to achieve. And that's why some firms resist AI, even when they know it works. It's not irrationally, it's a rational response to a broken pricing model. The firms getting ahead of this are moving towards fixed fee or value-based pricing, where efficiency becomes margin rather than lost revenue. But if you haven't had that conversation internally, deploying AI into a billable hour model without a plan creates problems and not solutions. That said, sticking to the old models with their built-in efficiencies is like sticking your head in the sand and hoping the inevitable competition won't come and steal all your clients. The highest value AI applications for professional services right now are not the flashy ones. They're in delivery to cash, doing the work, capturing the time, invoicing it, and collecting money. So for example, with time capture, consultants routinely underreport time, not because they're dishonest, but because manual time entry is painful and people fill in timesheets from memory at the end of the week. AI tools that passively track calendar and document activity suggest time entries, and these have been shown to recapture 5 to 10% of billable hours. And since you've already paid for those hours, that recovered revenue goes straight to the bottom line. We spoke about this in detail in a previous video, and I'll drop a link in the description. When it comes to billing and invoicing, billing errors, unapproved WIP, missed milestones, these are all silent margin killers. AI that monitors billing readiness and flags anomalies before invoices go out reduces write-offs and accelerates collection. And talking about collection, predictive tools that identify which clients are likely to pay late and trigger early follow-ups that will have a direct impact on your DSO, which is days sales outstanding. And shorter DSO means better cash flow. When you come to resource planning, billable utilization has hit an all-time low of 66.4%, down from 68.9% from last year, and it's been falling for 3 straight years. Every hour that your team sits on the bench costs you margin. Firms that using AI to forecast staffing needs 30, 60, 90 days out reduce bench time and improve utilization without adding headcount. These work because they sit inside control workflows with clear inputs and auditable outputs. That's the pattern that scales. What doesn't work is buying a tool, automating a process you haven't defined, feeding it data that isn't clean and hoping for the best. MIT's research identifies 4 stages of AI maturity. Stage 1 is experimentation. Stage 2 is building pilots. Stage 3 is where financial performance starts to change and AI becomes part of how you deliver work. And stage 4, which is where we all want to be, is where AI becomes a competitive advantage that you can sell. Unfortunately, most small to medium-sized firms and agencies are somewhere between stage 1 and 2. Don't get me wrong, that's not a criticism. But the honest answer is, are you ready depends on where you actually are and not where you'd like to be. So jumping from stage 1 to a stage 3 implementation is how you end up in the 95% that see no P&L impact. So if you're not sure where your business sits, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, can you tell me your billable utilization right now from your system, not from your memory? 2, can you tell me how much revenue you wrote off last quarter? And 3, do you have your core delivery processes documented well enough that a new hire could follow them without asking many questions? If the answer to any of those is no, that's where to start, not with the AI tools, but with the foundations that make the AI tools worth using. The technology is ready, it's been ready for a while. The question is whether your business is. If you want a clear picture of where your AI gaps are, we've actually built an AI readiness quiz. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes, and the link is in the description. And if that was useful, please do subscribe. I publish practical content for agencies and professional services firms on ERP, AI, and financial performance.